Toss some doo-doo in a can and swirl it around like you're making a jam. What's good, y'all? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. So, you've seen from the title and the thumbnail that we're going to be talking a little bit specifically about the Pokedex today. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, it should be noted that I am more than aware that the Pokedex has been a very critical aspect of the entirety of the franchise. It's part of what always incentivized us to go on our journey, catch and battle as many Pokemon as humanly possible. Before any journey we have ever taken in any of the mainline games, the first thing we are ever asked to do is fill out the Pokedex. 20 plus years later, and that premise still very much has not changed at all. Hell, even Pokemon Legends Arceus utilized a Pokédex, and that game took place, what, 100, maybe 200 years in the past? And now, here we are just a couple of years later with the newest mainline title in development set to release at some point this year, and yes, we have another Pokédex to work through. But see, this situation in particular is a little more unique than usual, and that's what we're going to be dissecting a little bit today. This is yet another one where I'm just going to be kind of pondering a couple of questions aloud, so why don't you guys go ahead and get comfy and join me. Thirsty? Grab yourself a nice chilled bottle of water. Feeling hungry? Well, I've got just a suggestion for you. May I recommend a bowl of donuts drizzled in hot, greasy onion oil while we go ahead and talk about the current Pokédex situation for Pokemon Legends CA. My first major question is probably the most obvious. What kind of role will the Pokédex even play this time around? And when I ask this, I'm asking from the perspective of the story and the gameplay. In the gameplay trailer that we witnessed just a couple of weeks ago, we saw the trainer capture a couple of Pokemon and get them registered in their Pokédex. But from a story aspect, I have two questions. Who gave us this Pokédex? And why are we filling it out again in the Kalos region? On the off chance that it's Sycamore that gave us this Pokédex, why is that the case? I have to imagine that he's already filled up on information about Pokemon from the Kalos region, considering the fact that just a couple of years prior, there was a trainer, Callum and Serena, that already filled out this specific Pokédex, that fulfilled his request. So that doesn't really make as much sense to me, right? That's kind of strange. But of course, there is the obvious potential answer to this question, which could be the fact that they really are just utilizing the Pokédex, filled out or not, as an encyclopedia for trainers to refer to if they want to know where to find specific Pokemon, or they simply want more information for themselves on specific Pokemon. Which is fine, I guess, because they did do that in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and they just made the Pokédex an app that was developed by one of the teachers from the school. But is that really all the Pokédex is going to devolve into? Just an app just in case the trainer or player wants more information on a Pokemon? I feel like it's always been a little more than that, and I can't imagine them just treating it like a passive thing. Especially not when it was such an important aspect in the original Pokemon Legends game. But that was a very specific situation for Paldea. That might not be the situation here. That specific Pokédex app was designed by a teacher for the students. And that's all the way in the Paldea region. We in Kalos right now, which means that we're not using Mr. Jacques' Pokédex. So who hooks us up? Is it Urbane and Tawny? Is it gonna be Sycamore again? Or is it gonna be Quizartico Inc.? Maybe Jet gives it to us. I feel like that would be a very interesting concept, right? If Jet were the one to give us the Pokédex app so that we could go out into these wild areas, capture as many Pokemon as possible, so that we could get as much information as possible to bring back to her so that she could better learn how to develop these manufactured, handmade wild areas that are inside of Lumio City. I feel like that would be a fun little twist, wouldn't it? Like, we're actually filling out this Pokédex not really knowing exactly what we're doing to help out what could be an evil force better manipulate Pokemon and their power to power the city. And it would make more sense to have some type of encyclopedia that is specific to Lumio City, because we're not venturing outside of that. If there's at least one thing we should pay attention to, it's the fact that every single Pokédex that we've ever gotten has been garnered specifically to the region that we're going to be exploring in. And of course, for the Kalos region, we've already completed a very specific Pokédex for that point in time. However, it's been quite some time, and Pokemon, new and old from regions all around, have moved into the city of Lumios. Which means that, one way or another, we gotta update this Pokédex, and that's exactly what's gonna be happening here. Now for the other side. How will this work from a gameplay perspective? I think I've made it pretty clear over the past couple of years that we've talked about it that one of my favorite aspects about Pokemon Legends Arceus is specifically how they handled the Pokédex. Because it took place so far in the past, we didn't have our typical electric encyclopedia to refer to this time around. Us, the trainer, was specifically asked by the professor, because we're so good at handling Pokemon, to help him handcraft the first Pokédex for Hisui. Which meant that just capturing one Pokemon would not be enough information this time around. This time around, we had multiple tasks to fill out for every single Pokemon, which meant that filling out a full Pokédex entry this time around would take just a little bit more work, having us defeat multiple Pokemon of the same species, having us utilize that Pokemon's moves multiple times in different battles, and even making us use style changes. Giving us these tasks made it so that collecting Pokemon, and battling alongside Pokemon was a much more immersive experience. Every time we were doing one of those required tasks, our trainer was filling out their notebook with tons of information about every single Pokemon that they came across. So from a story perspective, it made plenty of sense as to why we were doing that. However, that's not where it ends. Because we were at a point in time where they didn't really understand Pokemon as well as they do in modern times, it was as critical as ever to fill out that Pokédex, which meant that filling out your Pokédex directly correlated to how much you ranked up in the game. Ergo, the more tasks that you completed for your Pokédex, the more Pokemon that you learned about, the more you ranked up. And the more that you ranked up, the more freedom you had to do whatever you want, including capturing higher level Pokemon to utilize in the field. I, to this day, genuinely believe that that was easily the best and most addicting gameplay loop I have ever experienced in a Pokemon game. Maybe it's because it was such a breath of fresh air to not have everything I did be completely limited behind gym badges. But even then, it's still just such a good time that even now when I go back to playing the game, I find myself getting immersed all over again, just trying to capture and work with as many Pokemon as humanly possible before I have to go back to Jubilife City and report in. All of this to say, this was the first game in the Legends series. So of course, in the months leading up to the reveal of Pokemon Legends ZA, I always kind of figured there's no way they get rid of this system. It was so good, it was so well received, and it was such a good time. No way they don't bring this back. However, based on the little that we've seen, that might actually not be the case. When you would capture or battle a Pokemon in Pokemon Legends Arceus, it would show in the top left corner that you completed a task. It would usually show out of 10 to inform you how many tasks you needed to complete that specific request. In the ZA trailer, when the trainer captured that Fletchling and that Flaffy, we didn't see anything like that. Again, obviously, because this takes place in a modern time, we have our updated Pokédex, the regular schmegular electronic encyclopedia that we've always been using. So, when we would capture a Pokemon, all of the information would just be automatically registered as soon as we caught it. So that just means, what? Are we just completely through with this system? Because I genuinely thought it was such a good one that it would be a Legend staple, but this taking place in the modern era, there's no need to fill out a Pokédex that thoroughly. And that's one of the primary reasons that leads me to believe that Pokemon Legends ZA is going to be so heavily focused on trainer battles more so than ever. We're going to need some form of rank up system to make it so that we are eligible to capture higher level Pokemon and utilize those in battle. Utilizing the Pokédex the same way that we always have means that it's essentially kind of getting sidelined this time around, which, man, I gotta be honest with you, is a little on the disappointing side. I cannot front. But maybe that's my fault, right? For assuming that every Legends game was gonna take place in the past. That's on me. But in my defense, I saw potential in all of the systems and unique mechanics that they introduced in Pokemon Legends Arceus, whether it be the Pokédex system, whether it be the Grit system. Since Pokemon Legends was gonna be its own series anyway, I kind of figured that they would continue on developing those systems, but apparently that's not the case. Again, not to say that I'm not excited for Pokemon Legends ZA or anything like that, but I am disappointed that we're losing that aspect of it so damn quickly. Now, I have two more very simple questions for you guys. The first of which being, how many Pokemon are there gonna be? In Pokemon Legends Arceus, there were 242 Pokemon available in the Hisuian Pokedex. So there's no shot in hell that we don't get at least that amount or more. Or at least I'm praying that's the case. However, the logical side of me is telling me that we're probably gonna get a significant amount less than that. And there's two reasons for that. The first reason is because this game is an action RPG. It takes a lot of time to develop all of the animations and moves for all of these Pokemon, especially if we're going to be moving around in real time. But the attention to detail that it would take for each individual Pokemon, there's no way they're doing that for over 300 Pokemon. I'm sure they want to get things as accurate as possible, which means a couple of sacrifices. Again, of course, I do hope that I'm wrong about this because I want as many Pokemon as possible. I want them to prove me wrong on that aspect, but I don't know. I just don't have a great feeling about that. The second concern being the fact that this does take place in one city. I'm not at all concerned about the fact that the entirety of the game takes place in one city. However, it's kind of hard to imagine exactly how many Pokemon they're going to be introducing for this one place, you know? And just like any other Pokemon game, we can only utilize 6 Pokemon at a time. So how many Pokemon really need to be available for that much variety, you know? So maybe significant isn't the word I should have used here. It's probably gonna be a little less than what we did have in Legends Arceus, but hopefully I'm wrong. After all, we don't know what all of these wild areas look like. We don't know how expansive they're gonna be and how many Pokemon are gonna be available in each one of them. So I'm really hoping that they get as diverse as they possibly can with these areas. Especially because there's gonna be one more critical factor at play, and that is how many Pokemon in this game are going to have Mega Evolutions. In total, we have 48 Pokemon that have Mega Evolution, and that's including all of the Pokemon that were introduced in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And naturally, a couple of very obvious questions tend to crop up. How many of these Pokemon are coming back? We've been able to confirm at least 10 or 11 or so Pokemon in the game that can utilize Mega Evolution. But for a game like this one that's bringing back Mega Evolution for the first time in over a decade, there's no way they don't bring back way more than just that. But on top of that, what Pokemon are getting new Mega Evolutions? I mean, it's safe to say at least the starters, right? That's kind of a given, so that's at least 3 more Pokemon that are guaranteed, but how many others? And if that's the case, because we know how much Game Freak and Pokemon Company like their sacrifice, how many Pokemon are getting gutted for the sake of a couple of Pokemon, probably a solid handful, actually getting new Mega Evolutions? There really is just so many things to consider here, so many different possibilities that could affect how many Pokemon are going to end up in this game. And that really genuinely scares me, because Shinx has had a perfect attendance record for so long now. I don't want that tarnished. Like I said at the beginning here, all of this was just me kind of pondering aloud all of the possibilities when it comes to the Pokedex situation in this game. And a lot of this is just me getting a little too deep in my head, because in reality, even in a situation like Pokemon Sword and Shield, it's not like there weren't a lot of options. There was still plenty of Pokemon to choose from to utilize on your team. The issue there was the unfulfilled promise, not actually how many Pokemon were available. Either way, it's officially a matter of months until we get our hands on this game, and hopefully there is a lot of unique options to choose from when it comes to these Pokemon, and hopefully another good solid handful of them get some really sick designs for brand new Mega Evolutions that we've never seen before. And I pray on everything that all of them are viable to bring over to Pokemon Champions so that I can officially use Mega Luxray. It's actually time. Also, just remembered, regional forms are a thing. We're probably gonna get introduced to a couple of new regional forms, Colossian forms maybe, for Pokemon. That would be amazing, that would be great. We're at the point where since 7th gen, we have always seen regional forms. So that's something to take into account too, because there will be regional forms. We just don't know who for. Again, the new Shinx line could go crazy. All right, I've said it enough. That's enough. Overall, I'm just hoping that this next roster of Pokemon has a nice selection to choose from, especially out of Pokemon that we haven't seen in the mainline games in forever now. Hopefully they utilize that this time around, but hey, you know what? Maybe that's just me. So that just about does it for this one. Can you tell? We're already kind of running low on news. I'm gonna be so honest with y'all. But I'm gonna keep digging. I'm gonna keep finding things to talk about. And again, I still have other projects that I want to do. They're just obviously taking a little more time than I would like, because that would require me to slow down on regularly scheduled uploads, which is at least a couple of times a week, which it just gets a little hard, you know? So I'll find a way. But regardless, I'm passing the mic over to you guys, and I want you guys to tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below. Do you think that the Pokedex roster is going to be something solid? We're actually going to have a decent amount of Pokemon to choose from. They're going to get some new Mega Evolutions and regional forms in there that's going to justify however many Pokemon we have on this roster? Or are we cooked? No more decks cut ever again, and we should have every single Pokemon available to us always in this upcoming game. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I am always going to be down there with you guys. But with that, yes sir, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and do just that. I would like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm Gonzo. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time.